Welcome into another edition of Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here in the South Point studio, and my cohort Brendan Gaughan is joining me on a little spring break trip down on the outer reaches of the west coast of Mexico. What's going on down there, Brendan?
That's right. We're hanging out at the house down in Baja, and it's spring break with the kids. So my favorite place is the house. My family has had this house, Jeff, since 1977. My aunt and uncle built it. My pop bought it from him in the 70s, and it's been one of my favorite places on earth all my life. And so it'll be 2 weeks in a row, Jeff. I'll be in Baja. Just one time on the Pacific coast, and the next time I'll be on the Sea of Cortez in San Felipe, racing San Felipe next week. So 2 weeks in a row, I'm going to be missing in action.
Well, we'll all be expecting an invite to the 50th birthday party of that house next year, so we can all come down and.
It is the 50th.
Yes,
oh my goodness,
I think there should be a 50th birthday party for the house. So we'll be waiting for
I don't disagree. I think we can do that.
Yep, we'll be waiting for our invitation. So, well, while you're enjoying it down in New Mexico, we were having a race here this past weekend here in Las Vegas, and I pretty much figured out now the key to winning is get a penalty in the middle of the race and get sent to the rear of the field, because it worked for Ryan Blaney at Phoenix and Denny Hamlin. I mean, look, Denny Hamlin, he's back. Maybe I shouldn't have picked him to be the disappointing driver this year, because boy, he looked really good on Sunday. I'll tell you, and I'm probably going to think he's going to win again this week. So,
well, if you look at what he did last year at this racetrack, the odds are pretty good. He had an amazing day. I mean, and talk about penalties. I mean, Chase Briscoe, same thing. Chase Briscoe had a penalty early in the race and came back to a top 10. So, I mean, it definitely was not an easy or perfect day for the Joe Gibbs Racing teams. But man, I mean, 134 laps led. I mean, just an amazing run for Denny. And at the end, Chase Elliott, not William Byron. William and Chase at least made him earn it right there at the end. But still, Denny was just absolutely crushing it. So that was a hell of a day for Denny. And your disappointing pick is looking very disappointing.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, I think one of the things probably that you can take from this race, you know, it's a mile and a half. We know there's a lot of mile and a halfs that are going to come up on the schedule throughout the year, including in the playoffs. Chevrolet, there was a lot of concern about the Chevys, and Larson ran well. Elliott, Byron went second, third. So maybe the Chevys aren't as bad as maybe some people thought that they were going to be. Obviously, Toyota, though, still just dominating right now, the Toyotas.
Look, here's the problem. You call it a Chevrolet, I call it Hendrick. And, you know, you ain't going to keep Hendrick Motorsports down. If they're down, Jeff, they're down for a very short time. And they will figure things out. And going from a mile and a half of Vegas to the 1.3 mile of Darlington, I'm not too concerned, or 1.6 mile, whatever it is. I am not too concerned. They will be just fine. And I think the Chevrolets, what's the famous quote? The story of my demise has been grossly over exaggerated.
Yeah, I believe that was
I'm not
Twain.
too concerned about.
Yeah,
the story of my death or whatever. Rumors of my death have been grossly exaggerated.
Yeah, something like that.
The Chevys are going to be just fine, and Byron, Elliott, Larson all looked fantastic. Even Austin Dillon had a 12th place that looked pretty good right there near the end. So, I think that some of the Chevys, they'll be just fine as this season rolls on.
No, I totally agree. Well, let's take a look and see how Denny Hamlin fared for our boys at the Pennzoil 400 last weekend. He was plus 800 to win, and it's funny, you have the hindsight is 2020. You think plus 800 was a heck of a number to get on Denny Hamlin, given how well. I mean, it was his third career win now in Las Vegas, and he's had other races where he was maybe the fastest car and he didn't win, so he had that one coming to him. Also, he was a plus 210 for a top three, a plus 300 in Group A. What a great number that was for him. And then in his head-to-heads, he was a plus line over Larson and Bell, 130 over Larson, 110 over Bell. He brought Toyota home for the fourth time in 5 races this year at a plus 150. And the winning car number, we had that prop last week because the race was in Vegas. That one it was an odd number car. That was the favorite, so that was a minus 140. And one prop I know we didn't have up there was the number of cautions in the race. That number came in way under. We thought the slick hot track would probably create a little bit more mayhem. We really didn't see that. In fact, the only 2 cautions to the first 2 stages were the stage breaks, so we really didn't have a lot of calamity in that race. Let's take a look at
none at all.
Yeah, we'll take a look at our top 10. We mentioned Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. Elliott was plus 320 for his top three. Byron a plus 250 for a top three. Another good run for Christopher Bell. Pretty consistent there. Fourth. Ty Gibbs. Look, Ty Gibbs is he might be starting to knock on the door. You know, you really got to think that. He had a fifth place finish. Chris Buescher, great run for that team to get a sixth. Probably a little disappointment for Kyle Larson to finish seventh. He was a very, very strong car early on in the race, and then just seemed like he faded off a little bit. And Chase Briscoe, you mentioned he had to go to the rear. In fact, got a lap down early in the race because he got a penalty on his first pit stop, and he had to fight back, get the lucky dog, and then work his way back up. Another Toyota, Bubba Wallace in ninth. And hey, two of the RFK cars getting the top 10. Brad Keselowski, who he's been very, very successful in Las Vegas. So I don't think there's any real big surprises or shocks in there. And maybe for anything, maybe a little disappointment from Kyle Larson that he wasn't a little bit higher up.
Well, he was there for a minute, and then he faded right there at the end. He didn't have what they had at the end, Chase Elliott, William Byron being they. But how about two RFK cars top 10? Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Preece was we had Ryan on the show. So, because, hey, look, we had our buddy on the show. He came home 11th, just outside of the top 10, 7th and 8th in the stages. So, good day for that RFK team. All three cars top 11. That's one heck of a run right there for that team that's really starting to piece it together.
Yeah, and then one other little interesting tidbit we had in the race probably was really more after the race. Two former teammates, a little bit of a disagreement there with Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain. You've had your disagreements, I think, with one of those two guys. Did you see any of the replays of that? It seemed like these two guys were teammates, and I don't know. I didn't quite figure where that came from.
Well, if you listen to what they both said, it sounds like there's something on like lap 2 that Daniel felt bad he did to Ross on lap 2, and he wanted to kind of apologize to him, and then after the race he got doored, and then they got into what my favorite, the Hasselhoff with each other, and shocker that Ross Chastain is in a Hasselhoff with somebody, especially one that's his former teammate. Talking to guys that have been there before, some guys like being teammates, some don't. And Daniel, I don't think ever really endeared himself. They went through all sorts of stuff this week. If you listen to Sirius XM, listen to NASCAR radio, you heard all sorts of stuff about Mexico City, about all sorts of old things. It sounds to me like Bobby Hamilton Sr., when he wrecked me at Richmond 9 years later, said that was for Japan. I'm like, goodness gracious, my man, that was almost a decade ago. So that sounds like there's just a bunch of old phony baloney, BS going on, and they I don't see much else coming out of it. Daniel normally keeps his head pretty cool, so I think that's just going to be a cooler head will prevail in the end.
I was just going to say, some guys seem to get past things quicker, and this one I'm kind of wondering if this one's going to linger a little bit, because I thought there was some bad blood there, but who knows?
I don't think it'll linger with Daniel. Daniel doesn't care. Daniel's just going to keep racing and doing what he can for Spire, and they got enough distractions right now over at Spire that I think that Daniel's just going to keep trying to chug along and get things done. And, the other side, just pick a name, pick a driver, pick a new day. And that's kind of who's in a fight with him every week.
Yep. I get it. All right. Well, let's take a look at how our group matchups worked out last week. Our Group A, Denny Hamlin, no big surprise there. We talked about it, a plus 300, a great number there, plus 300. How about the long shot winning in Group B? Chase Elliott was a plus 400. Gets a second place finish there to win Group B. Very, very strong run there for Chase Elliott this week.
Beat my pick. I had old Chase Briscoe. That bummed me out. Me and you.
You and I both. Yeah, I had Chase Briscoe too. And again, Chase had one of the fastest cars on the track at the end, but it just took him forever to be able to overcome that penalty early in the race. And keeping with our theme in Group C, again, our underdog, the long shot, won in Group C. That was Ty Gibbs. He was a plus 380. A strong run for him, finishing there in fifth place and winning that group.
And two top 10s in Group C. That was Bubba come home with a ninth and Ty Gibbs with a fifth. So Group C with a strong race.
Well, and now we're going to get to Group D, where we had two top 10s out of Group D, both teammates at the RFK shop there, and Chris Buescher won that one with the plus 240. So good group win there on Chris Buescher. In Group E, I was very happy about this. Austin Cindric wins Group E at a plus 220. and he passed Eric Jones on the last lap to get that position because Eric Jones was officer. Because let me tell you, I might have been one of the only guys who was watching that race, and I was literally watching every lap for the interval between Cindric and Eric Jones to see if Cindric was going to get him. And when he was knocking off about 0.3 a lap over the last 3 or 4 laps, I thought, well, Jones is fading here, I think. And I know Cindric's going to drive hard. I mean, Cindric's not going to leave anything in the bag. So he won that group. And then And then Group F, Austin Dillon wins Group F with a plus 250. And that was another one where he finished just 2 spots ahead of Zane Smith. He and Zane Smith both had good runs. I think Austin ended up 12th. Zane ended up in 14th, I believe, in the race. So a strong run for both of those guys. But Austin Dillon there pulling off a group win. And I think Dillon's getting a little better this year, it seems like.
How about all those groups, Jeff? I mean, every one of them top 12 except for Group E. Top 12 took to win that race. Cindric was the furthest winner in Group E. Coming in at 19th, but that's a heck of that was good runs from all the groups. I mean, we don't get that all the time. That was a pretty impressive win there. Pretty impressive, a whole set of group matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a look at our schedule coming up here. This weekend, we're heading to Darlington, also known as the cheese grater, some people like to call it, for the way it will treat the tires. Then we're going to get our short track fill. We're going to go to Martinsville and Bristol. There's actually a week off in there with Easter. We go Martinsville, Bristol. Then we do another 1.5 miles, Kansas. And then we have those 2 short tracks, and then we're going to have the biggest daddy of them all, Talladega. So a lot of variety starting to come up in the schedule now.
A lot of variety, and then our little graphic of the truck moving back and forth across the country. Not a lot of movement this time. The truck's only moving short distances. Darlington, Martinsville, Bristol, all right there. Talladega, the only outlier, Kansas. So not a lot of traveling right now. Nice and tight.
No, I'm sure the hauler drivers are probably going to start liking this part of the schedule here for a little while because Kansas really isn't too bad. All right, when we come back on Gone Racing, Brendan and I love Darlington. It's one of our favorite tracks on the circuit. We'll come back and we'll start getting into the odds to win and the top 3s for Darlington. Welcome back into Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here in the South Point Hotel Casino and Spa, and Brendan Gaughan is not at the South Point Hotel Casino and Spa. He is in Baja, but somebody turned over his giggle box, as my mother used to say when I was a kid, because, Brendan, what is so funny?
It doesn't work on Sirius XM, but Ann is yelling at me for not staying centered in my box. And so, of course, if you're going to tell me I'm unprofessional, Mr. Motley. If you tell me to stay centered, what am I going to do?
Well, if you're not centered in your box, then you're definitely heading in the wrong direction there. So, yes, you look like one of those, the little thing in a
I've
clock,
never been center. I've always been off center.
This whole show has been off center pretty much for the past 9 years, I might
off
say.
Center.
So, speaking of tracks that are not exactly on center, this weekend we're heading to Darlington Raceway, where we got one turn is bigger than the other turn. Banking, I guess, is about the same. And then the racetrack is as abrasive. It's the most abrasive racetrack on tires that we go to all year. I mean, if you run 10 laps, your tires are not going to be as good as a guy that just pits 10 laps later.
Look, we've talked about this for years, Jeff. We used to, back in the day, we actually, the crew chiefs would actually like tell us not to turn the wheel going out. And when they were allowed back in the day, they would push out on a set of tires and change tires on pit road. We're going way back, old rules. This track, man, it is just wild what it does to tires. And even after the repave, it only took maybe a year before it went back to being the same way it was. So super fun to race. Darlington, there's not enough good things you can say about it. And then, of course, throwback weekend. So you're going to see a lot of cool paint schemes this week. I think I saw a couple Dale Earnhardts. I saw Wally Dallenbach. They've slowly been trickling out all their announcements on what they're doing. So really cool race weekend.
You just compared.
And what they say, Dave Marcus.
I was saying, you just compared a Dale Earnhardt to a Wally Dallenbach.
They got throwbacks of everybody, man. Come on, Dally Wallenbach. I mean, that was one of my favorites back in the day. Wally was super awesome, and then, like I said, I think Dave Marcus, they said, is the Grand Marshal or the pace car driver or something. So that's super cool too. I love seeing Dave Marcus at the track.
Well, as long as he's wearing his wingtips and he's got his Goodyear hat on, then
he will.
And he will have.
Do you expect anything else?
No, not out of Dave, man. Dave's been around a long time. People forget People forget in his younger days what a good racer Dave was. I mean, Dave won races back in the 70s, you know? I mean, people kind of remember him toward the end of his career, you know, getting in everybody's way, you know, there at the end. But early in the career, he was a heck of a race car driver, and he was a test driver for
Dave was awesome
for years and years and years.
Yep, set him up forever.
All right,
Dave was awesome. He's a super nice man, super nice to me.
Well, let's start talking about Darlington a little bit. You can't talk Darlington without talking Denny Hamlin. 27 starts. He got 5 wins, 14 top 5s, and 20 top 10s. You know, probably, and I'd have to go back and look at the history books. David Pearson and Cale Yarborough might be the only 2 other guys in history that have put up numbers similar to what Denny Hamlin has. I mean, I think David Pearson won the Southern 500 like once and won the Rebel. They used to call it the Rebel 500, the one in the spring, like 7 times. But he and Cale Yarborough were really strong. But Denny Hamlin, he's kind of the new David Pearson and Cale Yarborough when it comes to Darlington.
No, Denny's got this place figured out, has had it figured out almost his whole career. So don't expect anything less. He won this race in the spring last year. So and won it and did not dominate. He had to come, if you remember that race, he had to actually come from behind and make it in the end. And it was he had his work cut out for him. So it's super awesome to see Denny Hamlin run this place, because it's a work of art watching him do it.
Well, and the guy that's won this particular race 2 years in a row is Chase Briscoe. So I think we got to feel like Chase Briscoe, I mean, he's had so much bad luck this year. He finally had a little bit of a bounce back last week, but he's got to really feel like this is an opportunity for him right now to really try to get some momentum heading back in his season.
Yeah, he won the playoff race here last year, the fall race. But you know, and this is, remember early in the season we were talking about Chase Briscoe and the Martin Truex thing. So it was new last year. He came in, you know, and did not have a good day. He finished 28th in this race in the spring, and then right after this is when he started clicking back up. So I think that Chase is going to have a really, really, really good day, because last time he was here, he led 309 laps.
So you think he likes 500 miles? So he likes 500 miles better than 400 miles at Darlington, I guess.
I mean, listen, I think he'll like at 309 laps. That means he led at 400, 500. Hell, he was going to leave at 600. He was so strong last race.
You know, and if there's one guy we can never talk about Darlington and not mention as somewhat of an underdog is Eric Jones. He's got 16 starts, 2 wins, 6 top 5s, and 9 top 10s. Not all of those were running for the same race team.
No, and that's where we always talk, what have you done for me lately? Eric Jones, he's done that lately. You know, he's done that with even in the last couple of years. He was 3rd in the playoff race last year, and then even in the one earlier in the season, Eric Jones was still, I mean, look, not top 10, but he was still 17th, which for that Legacy Motor Club, that was a good run at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get into our odds to win the race this weekend here. Denny Hamlin, no big surprise to anybody. He's the favorite at plus 500. Kyle Larson, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Chase Briscoe are all plus 700. Then we get to our double-digit odds. Ryan Blaney is 10-1. Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, and Ty Gibbs at 15. Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano all at 25. Ross Chastain and Carson Hocevar at 30-1. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things I like here. Ty Gibbs is running so good right now that Ty Gibbs at 15-1. And then also, let's not sleep on Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, good last weekend. Bubba Wallace been good. You know, he is not. That's one of those stats when you look at Bubba, you kind of got to say, well, he's got 50% top 10 here. 10 races, 5 top 5s, 5 top 10s, an average finish of 14. That's not bad. And Bubba is coming. So I like those 2 15-1 bets right there with Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace.
I completely agree with you on those, but I'll tell you another one I like there, 25-1, Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher had a strong run last week, obviously here in Las Vegas, and I think this is a kind of racetrack that really sets up for Chris Buescher, because, look, we always say you got to manage your tires. If you go out there and you just go hammer down at the very beginning of the race, chances are you're not going to be surviving out there for very long. Chris Buescher is a guy who's a smart race car driver, knows how to manage his car, and I'm not saying there's not other guys out there who do the same thing, but at 25-1, I think that's a really, really good number on Chris Buescher. Last 3 races for Chris Buescher, 6th, 6th, and 10th at Darlington. So he has been there every race last couple of years. He's Chris, just that RFK team, 3 of them in the top 11.
So I do like the Chris Buescher bet also.
Yeah, and I think you're probably feeling a little bit of momentum off of last week. All right, let's look at our longer odds here for a win. Here we go. Okay, well, we have Alex Bowman on our sheet. He will not be in the car this week. He's out for at least the next 3 races. So we expect Justin Allgaier to be in that car. So I don't know if it'd be the same odds. Eric Jones, we talked about him a little while ago. He is 30-1. Kyle Busch, Ryan Preece, Josh Berry, and Austin Cindric are all 50-1. Daniel Suarez, Zane Smith, Connor Zilisch, John Hunter Nemechek, and AJ Allmendinger at 100-1. Shane Van Gisbergen, Todd Gilliland, Michael McDowell, 200. And the field bet, which is probably where we would have Justin Allgaier in the 48 right now, is a 20-1 bet.
Yeah, I mean, look, some things have happened in this race before, right? Eric Jones is one of these things. There's been some guys that surprised us. If I was going to pick one, maybe I'd say a Ryan Preece, running really well. That team's got a lot of, they feel pretty good. I think Ryan, we talked about it last week. He said he felt pretty good. So I wouldn't dislike that, but I don't know. It's just going to be a tough one to say that somebody from this second page is going to get this win. But Darlington has had it happen plenty of times, so not saying it won't happen.
Yeah, one thing we don't have to worry about, it's not going to be a fuel mileage race at Darlington. It never is. It's always usually going to come down to tires more than it's going to come down to fuel. But I kind of agree with you. I mean, Eric Jones is, I guess you'd say, is the sexy pick there, and Preece, and maybe Josh Berry. I don't know. Can't figure that one out.
He was terrible.
I was expecting a lot more out of him last week. I know you were. I think you picked him in the group last week and expected a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks. Pointing that out.
Look, I finally had a good week. I haven't gotten to crow all year long. It took me 5 race weeks to finally have a good week. All right, let's move along to let's move along to our odds for top 3s. And no big surprise, at the very top of the board, there's Denny Hamlin at plus 165. Kyle Larson is plus 180. Tyler Reddick, 190. William Byron, 235. Chase Briscoe, 250. Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell, 265. Chase Elliott, 400. Joey Logano, 500. Ross Chastain, 550. Bubba Wallace, 700. Ty Gibbs and Chris Buescher, 800. Kyle Busch, 850. Brad Keselowski, 11-1. Hocevar is 12-1. Eric Jones, 15. Connor Zilisch, 17. Preece and Berry, 18-1.
Well, we're going to talk. This is rinse and repeat, Jeff. I really like the Chris Buescher bet. I really like the Eric Jones bet. I really like those. Those got a lot of return. But if you're talking a little bit higher up, Chase Elliott, really fast last weekend, should be the same. Chase Briscoe, a little less return, 250. But I do like Chase Elliott at 400. I do really like the Chris Buescher, Brad Kay, or Eric Jones right there on this page at those numbers.
I'm with you on Elliott. I think Elliott's a pretty good number there, plus 400. I do. And then going back to the same thing, you said rinse and repeat. Well, you're kind of right, because I go back to the odds to win, and Chris Buescher plus 800 for a guy that's had 3 straight top 10s here, including 2 of those were 6th place finishes. I know it's not top 3, but that's knocking on the door, and it doesn't take much to fall your way for you to slide into the top 3. All right, let's look at our longer odds here for top 3s. And we got Eric Jones listed twice, do we? Yep. I don't know how we do that.
Yeah, we got them listed twice. We'll go with the first ones.
Yep.
We're going to Brad and Eric out there.
We're going to go with the first one. So Brad Keselowski's coming in here at 18-1. Then we have Daniel Suarez at 20-1, and Shane Van Gisbergen is 28, along with Michael McDowell and AJ Allmendinger, Noah Gragson, John Hunter Nemechek at 40, Stenhouse and Dillon 55, Zane Smith, Todd Gilliland 70, Dillon and Herbst at 110, Custer 130, Ware 130.
Yeah, nobody really sticks out to me on this page. Like I said, Eric and Brad were on the other page. I think they were bet down. I think that's why it just got written twice. SVG kind of been disappointing last couple of races. Has faded, quick from that 5th place in points. I mean, John Hunter maybe is the teammate Eric Jones, but I don't see much happening on this side of the page. It just, I think that's a long stretch for anybody here to get a top 3.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I don't really know that I see a lot of movement here. And that's the thing about Darlington. I mean, we've seen it with a few guys, maybe Eric Jones, but other than Eric Jones, I mean, we really haven't seen that guy that just comes out and pulls some big upset at Darlington. So we'll see. Okay, we come back on Gone Racing. We'll get into our driver head-to-heads, and we'll get into our favorites, which are the group matchups. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here in the South Point studio here in lovely Las Vegas. And speaking of joining me from a lovely location, my counterpart, Brendan Gaughan, is joining me from a little spring break trip down in Baja, which is actually in Mexico. It's called Baja, California, but it's really in Mexico. You look very,
because Baja means lower California. Let's break the code there.
Baja means lower. I did not know that. Huh. I learned something new every day. Well, if you can see us, you'll see Brendan he has his meta glasses on with a microphone, and he's got his nice relaxing Hawaiian shirt. What's that? A microphone on your meta glasses and your Hawaiian shirt.
It's clubs, diamonds, spades, and hearts. It's a gambling. It's a Las Vegas shirt.
It's kind of green. It's almost like you're still reliving St. Patrick's Day a few days later too.
That's the green from the. I'd show you.
It's not really a green
stained glass.
It's just a light.
Skylight.
Oh
no, the skylight is green. Is giving me a green hue apparently.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. All right. So let's move on to our driver.
All the important stuff.
Yeah, let's move on to our driver head-to-heads. And I basically just have one question for you, Brendan. Are you feeling Denny Hamlin on the don't line? Because the only thing we've got with any plus numbers are Denny on the don't line.
And they're not very. If Denny's this big of a favorite, you got him only plus 105s and minus 125s against everybody, basically. Larson, Byron, Bell, Reddick, Briscoe. Not a lot of fun there. And the other one is a Kyle Larson don't line, and they're all minus 110. So kind of DraftKings, DraftKings, I think is where we get these from, or Westgate. I'm not sure which one. But Westgate. But boo to them. What a boring set of. If you're going to do head-to-heads, come on, guys. Let's get a little more excitement here. Let's get the better something to bet on. But kind of a boring set of head-to-heads this week. No, nothing fun really to really get into, Jeff.
I was going to say the same thing. This is Daytona and Talladega level head-to-heads. So if you want to bet head-to-heads this week, go somewhere else. This ain't it's not going to be the place to do it. So let's move along into our group matchups, where no big surprise here. Denny Hamlin leads the way in Group A at a plus 250. Kyle Larson is plus 270. William Byron and Christopher Bell are both at plus 275.
God, just throw a blanket over him, Jeff. I really can't, give you a whole lot here. Byron's second best point getter behind Denny Hamlin, 4 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and a win last 10 races. So it's really hard for me to jump on anybody here because all these guys are really so tightly knit. I just don't like Group A this week.
Well, now, so here's my analytical brain when I'm looking at Group A, okay? Denny is minus 125 head-to-head against Larson. He's minus 125 head-to-head against William Byron. And he's minus 125 head-to-head against Christopher Bell. But he's plus 250 to beat all three of them. I kind of like those numbers. I like Denny Hamlin.
And actually, that I was just going to say, that's the best argument you gave to pick somebody is if you're taking it, that theory, then plus 250 is a great return because he is minus 125 against all them in a head-to-head. That's about the best thing I can give you is that plus 250 is actually probably a pretty good number on Denny Hamlin in this race.
Yeah, given what a favorite he is, I really thought that he would come in about plus 185, plus 190, something lower than that. So to me, to see plus 250 on Denny, knowing how good he is at Darlington, and what is your favorite term? Momentum.
Mo, baby.
You
got the Mo.
Mo is on his side. And, certainly he was able to finally put the offseason behind him last week. Also, he's banged up a little bit, but he's obviously coping with the injury. And so I don't know. I think plus 250, I kind of like Denny there. All right, let's take a look at our Group B. Tyler Reddick comes in here as the favorite at plus 220. Chase Briscoe, who's won the last 2 fall races at Darlington, is plus 250 along with Ryan Blaney. And Chase Elliott, big number on Chase Elliott at plus 380 1 week after a second place finish at Las Vegas.
Look, that's a you're talking about enticement there. He's got 5 top 10s in the last 10 races here, 2 top 5s. I'm talking about Chase Elliott. I don't dislike that at all, especially what he's coming off of last weekend. Now, you're betting against Tyler Reddick, the third best guy here, 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s, last 10 races. You're coming against Tyler Reddick, guy that started the season winning 3 races in a row. You're talking about Tyler Reddick, the guy that's been the hottest guy there. Talking about Chase Briscoe, who you and I both are very, very high on. The guy that led 309 laps here. So I still, but 380 is a good enticement on that. Blaney, I'm not a big fan of Blaney here right now. I don't think Blaney has run well enough on this style of racetrack lately. He did finish sixth here earlier last year, but in the spring race last year. But I just don't see Blaney. Looking at the stats, Blaney way down here at the 13th best point getter, 1 top 5 and 17.4 average finish, the deepest in that field. I like Chase Briscoe. I like Chase Elliott. I battle the Chases to me, and Chase Elliott's 380. I think I got to take it.
Well, I'm 100% in agreement with you on Blaney. I do, but I view this as more of a 3-horse race than a 2-horse race because I think
Reddick's there. I mean, that's I said betting against Reddick is
that is tough. And look, I've said this now 2 weeks in a row, and the 2 weeks ago it bit me. Last week it maybe nipped at me a little bit, but he did kind of recover. Chase Briscoe is too good of a driver with too good of a team to have had the finishes that he's had. And it's not indicative of how well they've run. The car's been fast everywhere. It's been a mistake here. I mean, Phoenix was not in his own doing. I guess maybe the mistake in Vegas was his own doing, but he did fight his butt off to work his way back up there. It just took him a while. I'm just believing that Chase Briscoe is going to break through. And I think the fact that he's won the fall race here 2 years in a row, he's got to feel a lot of confidence. And I would have almost thought they might have put him up in Group A instead of Group B. So getting Chase Briscoe, I think, here in Group B at plus 250, I kind of like that pick. All right, let's move along here. We'll move along to Group C, where our co-favorites are Bubba Wallace and Ty Gibbs. And then Chris Buescher comes in at a plus 285, and Brad Keselowski, his teammate, plus 290.
Ty, hottest guy in this group as of late, doing really well at 250. Bubba, I've said, you and I both have kind of been the same thing about Bubba a lot lately, going up against Chris and Brad, who we've liked both of them. Brad with the shoulder. This may be a tough race for him with that arm. This may be a little painful. I mean, that leg. This may be a little painful for him. Maybe that's anything you could say to knock Brad down just a hair for this race. But I like all 4 of these guys. I think they're all going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish. So too hard for me to pick between them. This is my X group this week.
One thing, and I did do a little bit of looking ahead, and I always think it's hard to pick a winner, and it's not even very easy to pick a top 3. And the head-to-heads are terrible this week. And one little foreshadowing here, we don't have a manufacturer prop this week. So I'm sort of stuck having to pick a bunch of groups. So whether I want to pick them or not, I feel like this week I'm probably going to have to pick in some groups. And if I got to look at this Group C right here, the guy that I feel this track suits him the best is Chris Buescher. And I love the fact that I can get Buescher at plus 285 because I look, I'm not ready to be picking Brad right now. I mean, when Brad gets healthy and Brad's back to being Brad, then maybe I'll pick Brad. Gibbs and Bubba, they race hard. We know they race hard. And we know sometimes racing hard at Darlington, not the track necessarily to always race hard. I'm not saying Chris Buescher's not a hard racer. Chris Buescher's a hard racer. But Chris Buescher he knows when to lift. You know what I'm saying? And I just think I get him at plus 285. I like Chris Buescher here in Group C because I don't know that I'm actually going to be afforded the opportunity to throw up the X very often because there's just not as many things to pick this week. So, all right, let's move along here to Group D and see if I have a group that is going to be really, really difficult for me here. It's this Group D. Kyle Busch is the favorite at plus 260, and then Ryan Preece, Josh Berry, and Austin Cindric all at plus 270.
See, and I'm kind of the other way. Josh Berry has one good race here in all of his deal. He's got 1 top 5, but with the 1 top 5, he has an average finish of 28 with the 1 top 5. So I think that was kind of call it a I don't want to say fluke. I feel bad saying fluke, but that was with Stuart Haas. He has the 1. Austin Cindric, he's just persona non grata half the time, right? It's almost like I don't understand what's going on with him, but he's got 0 top 10s in 8 races. Josh Berry, who I said I don't like. You got Priest and Kyle. Kyle has been struggling lately, not happy, which leaves Ryan Priest, the guy that I would say is of this group the hottest of it. So I like kind of Ryan Priest in this just because he is the guy that to me is running the best right now.
I agree with you. And in fact, I agree with you for the exact reasons that you just said. So I'm not going to exactly be able to come and bring a perspective that's that much different in this group.
A different perspective.
I don't have a different perspective. I actually agree with everything you just said, describing each one of those drivers. And so I like Ryan Priest here too. And even though,
which means that Ryan Priest will absolutely not win this group now.
That's probably, and we are, and Ryan, if you're listening to us this week after being our guest last week, we apologize if we are going to give you the kiss of death. All right, let's move along here to Group E, where Group E, we've already had some early betting action, I believe, going in on this group. So Zane Smith is now the favorite at plus 245. Daniel Suarez comes in at plus 250. And then our long shots are Connor Zilich and John Hunter Nemechek.
Connor not been performing at what they thought he was going to yet in the season. It may come in, but I am not going to start betting on him yet. The only one here I really, really like is just Suarez. I know you're high on Zane Smith. I'm not going to take it away from Zane Smith, but I just right now Daniel Suarez trying to make some waves with that new team, trying to run well with that new team. Very, got normally a level head on his shoulders. I really like the Zane Smith number here. The Daniel Suarez number here.
Well, I don't think there's any question that Suarez is going to be motivated this week. I mean, he's definitely going to be fired up, motivating, and I think that's a good plus 250. I do think this is a 2-horse race between these two guys here, Zane Smith and Daniel Suarez. And you're right, I've been high all year on Zane Smith, and look, he had a good run in Vegas last week by finishing 14th. It was a strong run, so I like Zane here just a little bit more than I do Suarez, but I can understand the Suarez deal too. So, all right. That's 5 of our groups. We got 1 group left. We come back. We'll give you the final group. We'll tell you how we did last week. We'll give you our picks for Darlington.
Toots.
Welcome back to the final segment of this week's edition of Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here at the South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And my counterpart there, Brendan Gaughan, is joining me from Baja, where he's enjoying a little spring break time with the kids. Brendan, we're on to our last group here, Group F, and we've already seen some early betting action going on in Group F because Austin Dillon has now emerged as the favorite in this group here at 240. Michael McDowell is 260, Todd Gilliland 275, and our old buddy Shane Van Gisbergen at plus 300.
Yeah, SVG has kind of faded a little bit in the last couple races, so and look, this is a tough place no matter where you come from to get something down here. So I'm not quite as big on him at the moment. This is a tough one though. This to me is a 2-man horse race, Jeff. Here's what I got. I got McDowell and Austin Dillon both have a 16 and a 17 place average finish. Everybody else has much further, including Gilliland, who's much further down. Dillon ran 12th last weekend. Good run. McDowell, I'm going to call it a 2-man horse race. I'm not betting Group F this week, but I think it comes down to McDowell and Dillon. Pick your champion out of those two, in my opinion.
We almost don't need 2 of us doing this show since I'm thinking the exact same thing you're thinking there. I'm not going to pick this group this week. I do think it comes down between Dillon and McDowell. And if I had to lean one way or the other, I would slightly lean to Dillon, even though I know he's also the favorite. I really liked the way he ran last week. And, Austin's a really smart race car driver. And look, I love Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell's another guy who can kind of tend to want to run hard, a little harder maybe than the car should go. And Austin's a guy who, for the most part, does a pretty good job of taking care of his stuff and kind of letting the race come to him a little bit. And we know that that's important at Darlington. So if I had to lean any way at all, I would lean a little bit toward Austin Dillon here, but I'm kind of with you. I don't believe that this is a group that I'll be picking. All right, let's take.
And the other problem is how much is the Spire Motorsports thing really affecting that team right now? This to me is a lawsuit that is different than the NASCAR lawsuit. This involves direct competition, right? The NASCAR lawsuit with 2311 last year, it involved ancillaries. It involved Michael and NASCAR, but it didn't really affect the team that much. We felt like it did at the end of the year, maybe down the stretch, but it didn't really have much of effect. This is direct correlation. Competition director, crew chief, whatever, and all that, and the team itself. So I think that's got to be a distraction here. And with McDowell, I just think it directly affects that team, and that's what scares me. So I'd lean towards Dillon, the favorite, but it's between Dillon and McDowell, in my opinion.
But do you really feel like that Gaughan has really been able to contribute that much to the team anyway? I mean, he wasn't over there very long, and then
they've had a lot of good runs.
Well, this is true, and he's. I
mean, listen, look at the start of the year. Look at the start of this year, where Suarez or McDowell, one of them has had really good runs a couple different times this year. So I think it's made a big difference, Hocevar included, and I think that's I think it's going to get a little more difficult for them before it gets better, in my opinion.
Well, I feel like we're playing judicial ping pong with that thing. I mean, he can work there one week, and then there's some guy that gets an injunction says he can't work, and then he get another injunction says he can work. I mean, the whole thing seems ridiculous. Let's just settle this thing and let's get on down the road, right? The fact, I mean, I don't want to get a whole lot in this lawsuit, but one thing,
tired of lawsuits.
One thing it does kind of blow my mind a little bit. How would Joe Gibbs Racing really feel threatened by Spire Motorsports? Now, Spire's getting better, but Joe, I mean, I don't know. I just don't. Anyway,
it's Joe Gibbs Racing. Yeah. I'm with you, Joe Gibbs and Hendrick. Like, really, you guys just you're the biggest and the best. Just leave it alone.
Well, let's take one quick little glance at our championship odds. And one thing that has jumped out to me a little bit on the championship odds, because I am not ready to throw the towel in on the guy. Chase Briscoe's odds have gone up to 15-1. I think if you want to take a shot on Chase Briscoe, now is going to be the time to do it, because I don't think we're going to see those numbers get much better.
No, I 1,000,000% agree with you. But remember, Jeff, we got to preface this. When we talk about this is the future bet. This is how you hedge later in the season. Where is the value? Tyler Reddick opened the season at 18-1 or 18-1, and he's down to 7. You've kind of missed the boat on Tyler Reddick, and I can't believe he's still 7. He should be 5, in my opinion, right there with Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. But right now, the 2 best odds to me, 3 best, are Chase Briscoe at 15, Chase Elliott at 10, and Joey Logano at 20. Those 3 guys right there, I believe, are all 3 championship contenders, and I do really like those odds. Great way to hedge your bet for later in the season. Put a little bit down on those guys right now, because their odds will shrink as the year goes on.
Could not agree more. I love that. Love your analysis on that. All right, let's get to this week, one of my favorite parts of the show. And that's how we did last week. And finally, last week was a strong week for me. I actually had 3 winners last night. I took that don't line on Kyle Larson because I just wasn't.
Yeah, you did.
I was not committed. I don't know why. I just feel like there's something that's been a little bit off with that team over the last year or so. I know he won the championship, but I just feel like it hasn't quite clicked. So I got, I know it sounds funny. Oh, but it's like, other than,
but he won the championship.
Yeah, it's like, well, other than the shooting, how'd you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln? I mean, I guess it was kind of one of those things, right? But anyway, so I took Byron and Hamlin head-to-head over Larson, so those came in. And then, as I was telling you, I was holding my breath on the last lap when Austin Cindric made a pass on Eric Jones to win that group. So I got a win there in that group, and that got me a nice total of 5.8 units for the week. You didn't get shut out, but a little bit of a rough week for you. But you and I agreed on that Hamlin over Larson and pit crew. My
2, the Logano top 3, the Barry Group B were terrible picks. But you look at Briscoe Group B, he was battling back for it and was getting close. And then Priest Group D, he lost to his 2 teammates right there at 11th, 9th, and 6th or 5th or whatever it was. So that was a good loss, in my opinion. Not a terrible one like the Barry Group pick or the Logano pick.
Yep, I agree. Okay, let's get into our picks for this week, and we are, guess who?
Whoa, let's talk about how we're doing for the season, though. What about the season odds?
Season?
Can you give me the season points?
Season?
I mean, that's what let you.
Okay, I got it. All right.
6, 7?
Yep. Okay, we We found out that the graphic may not be available because the person in charge of the graphic is now in last place.
Oh, there's the graphic.
Yeah.
Oh,
so Brendan's
it's amazing, Jeff. They were saying they had a problem with the graphic.
Yeah.
I wonder why they had the problem with the graphic. Wonder why there's a problem this week with the graphic. Do you know?
Because guess who has fallen below that proverbial Mendoza line? It is the pit crew. So, Brendan, you're at 17.2 units. I'm at 6.2. The pit crew has lost money for people at 1.3. So that's where we are. Okay, picks for this week. Pit crew gets to go first. They are taking Denny Hamlin to win at plus 500 and Denny Hamlin to win Group A at plus 250. They've got Chase Briscoe in Group B at plus 250, Kyle Busch, Group D, plus 260, and Michael McDowell, plus 260 in Group F.
All right. They kind of had some there.
My picks for this week, all 5 are in groups, and I'm taking the first 5 groups. I agree on Denny Hamlin to win Group A at plus 250. I also agree with Chase Briscoe to win Group B at plus 250. Then I'm going Chris Buescher at plus 285 in Group C. I'm going to go Ryan Preece in Group D. And then in Group E, I am sticking with my man, Zane Smith.
See, now I'm thinking I might have to change my picks. Come on.
Too many agreements with the people that are behind you in the standings. Is that it?
Yes, basically, absolutely. So here's what I am now thinking. I am calling an audible. This is an audible, Jeff. I'm flip-flopping 2 picks. I had Chase Elliott at plus 400 for a top 3. I'm going to make that Chase Briscoe, changing chases, for a top 3 at plus 250. Then I'm going to go down into Group B, and I can win both of these, and I'm going to pick Chase Elliott to be Group B at whatever he was. I had it written down. Now I got to go look at it. Chase Elliott to at plus 380.
380, big
so I'm
number.
flip-flopping. I'm getting Chase Elliott 380, and I'm getting Briscoe top 3, so I'm flipping those. Then I'm going to go 3 groups also. Even though I said it's an X group, after looking at some notes, I'm going back and taking Ty Gibbs. I think he's the hot hand, plus 250 in Group C. I'm going to give you a Group D matchup of Ryan Preece at plus 270, put my money where my mouth is. And then I am going to end it where my money was in Group E and say Daniel Suarez at plus 250. So I gotta retype my stuff. So I gotta flip flop these.
All right. So you and I are going. We're agreeing on how many? We agreeing on just 1, 2? No, 1.
I don't know now because I'm not agreeing on Briscoe anymore.
We agree on Preece. I'm agreeing with the pit crew on a couple of these picks. So we'll see how that.
Yeah, bad for you.
Okay. Well, Brendan, we got about a minute and a half left in our show for this week. Darlington. Did you like Darlington? Did you enjoy racing there?
Oh, loved it. I remember going there for the first time in 1999. Shane Wilson and all of us, 2000, and putting wood in the frame rail because we were told that. It was just such a fun place. I had the late great Buddy Baker coaching me when I drove for Roger Penske to one of the worst races of my career there. Almost embarrassing how bad it was. Buddy Baker with that. Remember that high-pitched Buddy Baker voice. Really high-pitched. For such a big man. Massive high.
Kind of like Michael Waltrip. Buddy Baker, Michael
massive
Waltrip. Big guys with a soft voice. Buddy Baker. It's Buddy Baker.
With that super cool voice that he had.
Yeah, I love Buddy.
And Buddy, I never forget him saying, son, why don't you give that wall a break for a few laps, would you? Because I hit that wall, I think, like 9 laps in a row. And so I loved having him there. I loved this racetrack, and it has some good runs there, has some bad runs there, but in the end, it was one of the most fun race courses to race in the entire sport.
So what you're saying is there was a Darlington stripe with your name on it.
There was a Darlington wall all the way across, baby. I'm telling you, there wasn't a piece I'd missed that race. We changed camber twice in that race.
Well, good. Well, we're looking forward to this weekend's race here. Brendan, you're going to be remote with us again next week. We come back and we'll start talking about Martinsville, but we'll wrap up Darlington as well. See you next week.